with me, Farouk Al-Wahab, a diplomatic consultant, joining us to help us really break the issues down and also appreciate what is happening when it comes to this space. Hello, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming, as always.
Thanks.
It's good to have you in the studio once again.
Same here.
I saw you on other media platforms.
Hey,
yes, you were on TV3, you were on XYZ, and you know, all the platforms. So we are very, very excited to have you join us on today's episode as we look at the various issues that are trending here. So I'm going to I'll give a brief background, and then you will help us really understand what is happening here. To begin with, Ghana's mission in Washington, D.C. reopens following overhaul amid visa scam allegations. Ghana's embassy in Washington, D.C. reopened on Thursday, May 29, 2025. Following a temporary closure due to allegations of visa fraud. In a press statement dated May 27, 2025, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs revealed that a team of seasoned diplomats led by a senior official from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been appointed to oversee the mission. This move aims to restore integrity, complete structural reforms, and implement a comprehensive systems overhaul at the embassy. The announcement comes a day after the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, confirmed the temporary shutdown via social media on May 26, citing ongoing investigations into visa scam allegations. Now, the ministry assured the public that measures are being put in place to address the backlog of consular services and to also ensure a more transparent and efficient operation moving forward. Now, this is our first story. This story has drawn a lot of attention from not just from, you know, Ghana, but all over the world. I can confidently state that because I have personally received people sharing their opinions or views on this particular issue. First and foremost, breaking the news on social media has been of concern to a lot of people, especially industry players when it comes to diplomacy and international relations. Now, from where you sit, is that the right approach to handling things?
Thank you.
Welcome.
First of all, you know, diplomacy deals with certain specifics. Diplomacy has its own way that it operates, not politics. Now, in diplomacy, things are kept very private, but then things are kept very strategic for certain reasons. Especially you are dealing with two countries. Especially when you're dealing with the image and the integrity of a certain state called a nation, which is a host or guest, sorry, in another country.
Right.
In this regard, America hosts Ghana. So whatever happens at Ghana mission, it is deemed diplomatically is the Ghana government, the Ghana that has caused whatever that it is. Now, the Honorable Minister goes out there. I believe that he might have gone there with a certain information. Not that when he got there and he was able to unravel the rot or whatever mafia sense that was going there. So if that being said, and if he had a prior notice and information before going there, then in my view, it was just too much of effectiveness in that regard instead of being diplomatically efficient. What is it? Meaning that the entire mission is what is called the Ghana Embassy.
Right.
And the entire mission has different departments. We have the consular services, the political desk, a consular section, a student secretariat, a mixture, and a whole lot of
the
things.
IT department.
The IT department, you understand. The IT actually normally is worked with the accounts or the finance directorate of the mission. That is where. And the IT also works with the consulate section,
right,
with visa, etc. Now, the important thing here is that if it was something related, as we've been told, about passport and visa issue, money, that means the enemy is known. The problem is known. So if the problem is known, is that particular department that you go in there and plug it out, or you close that department out. Then efficiently employ audit service within or audit service external from your host, your country, in this case Ghana. And then you will give them the roadmap following what you have heard or what you do know, for them to go in there and investigate quietly, peacefully, in that manner. I've said and I'll mention again, my good friend, a bit in my view, he said he contacted or consulted the presidency.
Right.
If even he did, that is okay. But I think in that regard, I would say that the presidency also erred to some extent to allow and give go ahead for such, yes, to be closed down, but then the level of its embolden it in the public domain, especially when anything that goes on social media platforms, regardless of whichever, it goes all over the world.
Right.
Now, you're dealing with a country that is your host, in this case, America. The America herself as a country has not severed diplomatic relations with Ghana. America has not asked our ambassador or any mission staff to go, declaring them persona non grata. It hasn't happened like that. You remember in the case of Ibrahim Rousseau, the South African diplomat ambassador who was expelled in March from United States, is following what he has done. Americans perceived that he's anti-XYZ or against America. Instances that will lead a closure of a mission completely to the public like that is where, let's say, the mission herself is involved something against the state, that is the host nation, or the ambassador is involved or noted to have made certain comments and it angers the country, they can close it down. Or a certain fugitive who is not seeking asylum at the mission but rather hidden in the mission, that case the whole nation can do that. But when it comes to clerical administrative failures, such as I won't use the word corruption, I'll use it, let's say, administrative flaws or accounting flaws, it does not necessarily need the public to know. It is a typically domestic issue that should be handled at that point quietly. It is what? A local issue, localized within the embassy. One, if somebody is just only a secretary to the council or a secretary to the ambassador, what has that person indeed got to do with visa and visa money? Are you getting me?
Yeah.
If somebody is at the press center or political desk, what have they got to do with accounting issues in that regard? So therefore, if the Prime Minister or the government in this regard, because he seeks permission from the presidency or the government, says that withdraw everybody and then let us, with the term used here, overhaul. If we knew and we know that we're going to overhaul, we could overhaul. Was it needed for us to publicly go out there and tell the world that our embassy or the mission is engaged in corruptible practices, i.e. Visa and then also passport monetary mafiosos?
Don't Ghanaians have the rights? I mean, don't we have the rights to be filled in on what happens when it comes to government?
That is what it comes into play of where diplomacy meet the regular politics.
Okay, so you mean that it is okay for the people to actually be filled with information or made information known to them when it comes to what is happening at the various sectors of governance? Is that so? So then why is it a crime, or why has he erred in going about his job to actually let the people know that this is where you guys put me and this is the work I'm doing, this is what we have discovered, and this is what I think must be done to handle the issue?
I won't borrow the word erred. I only say that he made a mistake. The modus, to me personally, was a little bit too harsh. That the whole embassy staff, because one, when you said, and the minister said that he has ordered and recalled all the mission staffs, and we're talking about 120 or maybe more. If you recall them, and it was brought to the attention, one, you should bring it to the attention of the host. in this regard, the State Secretary of State, Rubio. And then also in this regard, the State Department of United States of America. What do you tell them before you close your ministry, your mission down over XYZ, and you are calling them, thank you. Don't forget that all of them went through clearance, diplomatic clearance before. They are working there not as ghosts. They are working there with visas, diplomatic visas as mission staffs. Therefore, when you recall them, America could have followed up suit and then what? Blasts. What does it mean? Also cancel all their this and that. Go out there, subject yourself to your country, and then come through. Then they will ask them that, go for another clearance. What would have been the situation? And then two, asking all of them to come. Who was going to feed and purchase and buy their tickets? I'm a staff. I'm a driver at the mission. The whole mission is closed down. Everybody must come to Accra. Who is buying my ticket?
The taxpayers.
Thank you. They will be reluctant not to pay, so you have to pay. So when you bring them down, those who are not involved, the drivers, the cooks, etc., and then the secretaries, or name them. How do you buy ticket for all of them to come down and all of them to go back? Or i.e., in this regard, you are still going to go through the accounting department, and for that matter, the director of finance, or the one in charge of finance, and the IT. So you made mention specifically on day one that the IT department, there is a corruptible practices and also a link that has been worked to our central data or the central payment link, etc. So we know where the issue is. In that regard, it is something that should have not been made public because one, the big hubs, the big embassies, the big missions in this country, America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Holland, etc. Go out there and find out from them. And of course, your program is being listened or watched by diplomats. Do you know what issues happens at their missions? Do you know how many times they send their secret police? In the case of America, CIA, FBI agents, and then the Scotland Yard coming to the British High Commission and France, etc.
So this is not the first time something like this is happening.
It happens all over. The France, it happens with the Chinese, it happens. It is something, you're dealing with human nature. You're dealing with human institutions. They are bad ones, they are rot ones. It does exist everywhere. The same thing that we have our political settings, our ministries, agencies, departments, is the same thing. They are human beings that are there. So these issues happen. Even with the big hubs that I've made mention, big diplomatic missions, yet at no given time that you will hear that the US or I'm just using a scenario, the UK embassy in Accra reports of a consular officer who is dealing in visa racketeering. You will never hear that. But they arrest them all the time here, and then also they cancel their listen. It is handled between them. It's only Ghana Immigration that in most cases will know, and he, the foreign minister, should also attest to this fact that at the foreign service, when something happens with some of these missions, they write to inform them that in the capacity of our consular, in the capacity of this or this, and he has been recalled for further questions over X, Y, Z.
Without much details.
This is not made public on their social media platform because in this regard, somebody, like I said, if the U.S. decided to retaliate with that action that, that is what is going on there, then please, all your mission staffs, including the head of the mission, they declare them persona non grata. You are now coming to apply for visas to let them go. What have we done out there? That is one. Two, how would the general public, the feel of how and what is happening at Ghanaian mission? Yes, you have good intentions, but the good intentions, of course, as a foreign minister, is coming with them. But in this case, since 1957 that Ghana established as mission, from Kwame Nkrumah's time, this will be, or this is the time, if even it was shut down for 20 minutes, it is a record that a time came, Ghana shut the mission down. The word temporarily is here, is neither here nor there. Do you understand what I mean?
Farouk, as we wrap up on this particular subject and move on to other subjects, may I ask, what are the implications of this?
The implications is that I do not know how behind the scenes, how the Americans certainly they will engage the mission. They certainly will, the State Department will engage the mission. They will engage through their embassy here with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, something that well, that one, they will not put it out there. So these are some of the needless, in my view, implications that actually it could have been handled in this regard diplomatically. So the foreign missions, and for that matter, foreign affairs, when an event, we have this across board, and I will not begrudge the minister from taking any action. Some of us, we know worse one than this. But then in working on such diplomatic lines, there's a particular standard, and you have to tread cautiously in order not to exacerbate the issue and then throw the country, throw the baby with the bad water. You don't do it like that. Diplomacy has a lot to affect, and the country has a lot to pay for a certain price. And because you know what, if some of the implications, that next time that you are bringing your officials, foreign officials, and the American embassy is sitting here, they will go through a very difficult and strict clearance. Who has caused this? It is our own because of case. Now they are going to ask you, have you been able to find those officials who were engaged in the corruptible practices? Are we going to declare them? And if we do, subject to the American FCPA law, Foreign Corrupt Practice Authority, American can even arrest them on the soil of America. These are some of the implications. But then fast forward, please, it is high time, because they made mention of passport and they made mention of what? Visa. I'm beg and I plead to, I'm saying that we need embassy like Washington, embassy like UK, in London, France, Belgium, the bigger ones. You need the presence of immigration. It is quite worrying we don't have one single immigration officer who is there, because the passport is foreign affairs, but the visa is Ghana immigration. How do they play in? And two, how such a mission hasn't got one single auditor? Ghana Audit Service, they should have a budget, and an audit service personnel qualified must be at any of such our embassies. That is what it is done practically all over the world with high profile missions and those who are really serious doing business, because we make a lot of money in Washington, so as New York.
That's strategic.
Look at the
locations.
Ghana huge presence of Ghanaians who are even naturalized Americans, and these are the embassies that they go. So you don't have an immigration officer to do efficient issuing of visas or do efficient issuing of passport. Who knows passport better than the immigration? Not the foreign affairs. The immigration, they know. How well are they involved? So following this issue, it is my advice that the Honorable Minister and his ministry, they must, whether they like it or not, engage with the Ministry of Interior rapidly, quickly, without delay, get immigration also on board, as well as other service. That would be my proposal.
Okay, in that case, but wait, before I move on, does a country need permission from the host country before shutting down their mission?
Yes, you can't shut down the mission like that. It's a chain. Diplomacy is a chain.
So you need to communicate.
You have to communicate to the State Department.
All right.
Do you think India High Commission in Ghana here can just get up without informing him first, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, two, informing the president or the head of the diplomatic corps, and they pack because a certain Indian driver has slapped the ambassador, then they close the mission and they go? If even is one day, should the host nation decide to be a bit stiff and rough on that call, and if I don't know, I do not know how it went on. If maybe permissions or information were advanced and noticed, I wouldn't know. But if it was not done, America, you know, is a hub and a home. Washington is one of the important home of diplomacy. They could have reacted. What would have been our destiny? Now then it creates a kind of diplomatic role, a kind of diplomatic problems. Then we have to now find solutions. Now it comes to president, and we know, we know whom we are dealing with. And in that case, I will call it President Trump. He could have reacted. And certainly there will be remarks one day to come that go and see at the Ghana embassy. What is happening there? I told you they are corrupt. These are things that the country, in my view, wouldn't have to create and then toss ourselves into the hot water. It is not done.
Okay.